Hello, Stallions. So, for week 5, we're going to be focusing on theme in the story Wonder, which we have been reading for the last few weeks. So, theme is something that we've already seen this year, and I'm just going to do a quick refresher just to give you guys a little reminder of what a theme is. So, the theme is the main message, lesson, or the moral of a story or text. It's oftentimes in fables, myths, and fiction text. The theme can be implied, so that means it's not going to tell you this is what the theme or the lesson is that you're supposed to learn in the story. It's something that you kind of have to read between the lines and make inferences about. So you use text clues to figure it out, such as what happens to the characters, how do the characters react, what do the characters learn, and how do the characters grow or change. And throughout the story, the chapter, or the section of the story that you're reading, you're going to ask yourself, what is the character trying to teach me? What are they learning, and what am I supposed to learn from them? Some examples of themes are more can be achieved by working together, it is best to tell the truth, and don't give up. So remember, those are just examples. Those are not the only themes that you can find out there in different texts. For the I Do, I decided to focus on the chapter called Halloween. So if we look back at that chapter, it is the one that talks about Summer and August sitting at lunch discussing what Halloween costumes they would like to use. So for the first part of the graphic organizer, it says big idea or topic. So during this chapter, the big idea or topic is that Summer is hesitant about, oops, I misspelled her name, about her Halloween costume ideas and is concerned about what other students' opinions on it may be. So while they're talking at lunch, Summer kind of mentions to Augie what her costume ideas are, but then she seems a little hesitant about it because of what she thinks other students are going to think. So we see that here in this section where Augie asks her, what are you going to be? And then she says she knows what she really wants to go as, but it might be too dorky. She says, Savannah's group isn't even wearing costumes this year. They think we're too old for Halloween. So that kind of shows that she's kind of worried about what that group may think. So if we move on to the next part, it says, what do the characters say or do to demonstrate the big idea? So we're looking for 3 pieces of evidence that support that she's hesitant and that she's concerned about what other people think. So the first thing that I found was in that same area I was looking at before, where she says that, Savannah's group isn't even wearing a costume this year. They think we're too old for Halloween. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight and copy this, and I'm going to paste it into this box. So here, Summer shows that she is worried about others' opinions when she says, and paste that in here. So by pointing out the fact that another group of girls aren't wearing costumes or that they think we're too old, she kind of shows that she's a little worried about what they may think. Moving on to the second piece of evidence, Augie and Summer continue talking about what Summer's idea for her costumes were, and she says she would like to be a paper mache unicorn, but that she thinks that might be a little too dorky. So August moves on and he says, then you should do it. Who cares what other people think, right? So right here, August is showing his support. So he is supporting Summer by saying, you should do it. Who cares what other people think? So the first thing is Summer is hesitant. She's worried about other people's opinion. Augie's saying, man, don't worry about them. If that's what you want to do, then go for it. And then for our last piece of text that supports that she's concerned and worried about other people's thoughts is down here. After Augie shows her that support and tells her, don't worry about other people, Summer goes on to say, "Thanks, Augie." She giggled, "You know what I like best about you? I feel like I can tell you anything." So Summer feels better about her so-called dorky costume and says that she likes talking to Augie and she feels like she can tell him anything. So the reason I chose these three pieces of evidence is because they all support the fact that Summer's hesitant and just showing how she's concerned about what other people think. So first she's worried about the group of girls, but after Augie shows his support, then she realizes, maybe not everyone will think it's dorky because Augie's here showing that, hey, if that's what you want to be, go ahead and be that. So we're going to move on to the last section of our graphic organizer, which is the theme. So the theme, remember, is the message or the lesson that the characters learn and that you were supposed to take away from the story as well. So here we have some examples of common themes, which are friendship, cooperation, kindness, bravery, growing up, courage, perseverance, responsibility, sharing, and acceptance. I do not want to see you copying these common themes over into the theme box. Those are just examples to kind of help you remember what examples of themes are and to guide your thinking. You need to come up with your own theme that is a complete sentence. So that is what I'm going to put in this theme box. So here, after Summer goes through these three different steps, the lesson that she learns is that do not let other people's opinions discourage you from making your own choices and doing what makes you happy. So I chose this as my theme or the lesson that Summer learned because throughout this chapter, she shows that she's concerned about what other people think about her, but towards the end, she realizes that you can't let what other people think discourage you from doing what you want to do. For the We Do, I'll be using the Bleeding Scream chapter. So in this chapter, the big idea or the topic was that Augie is hurt after he overhears his friend talking badly about him behind his back. So looking back at the chapter, the Bleeding Scream, Augie's dressed up as the Bleeding Scream, and he's super excited to be dressed up for Halloween. When he walks into the classroom, he overhears Julian and a group of kids talking about him behind his back. So for the first piece of evidence, I am going to copy this right here where it says, "And I really think if I look like him, seriously, I think I'd kill myself." And I'll paste it over here. So Augie hears one of the mummies say, and I'm going to put that evidence in here. At this point, he hears that, but he recognizes the voice, but he's still not sure exactly who it is. So for the second piece of evidence, I'm going to go back to the story, and down here where he says, "I knew the shrug, of course, I knew the voice. I wanted to run out of the room right then and there, but I stood there and listened to Jack Will." And I'm going to place this as another piece of text evidence because this is when Augie says, and I'm going to place it here, when he says this, we realize he knows it's Jack Will. So at this point, he realizes it's his so-called friend and he's starting to feel betrayed. So the last piece of evidence I'm going to use for this is down here, where he's talking about he doesn't know what he answered because he ran out of the class, and that he went without anyone knowing he was there. And I'm going to copy this part right here where it says, and I started crying and I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes I could barely see. So the reason I'm choosing that is because it shows how hurt he was from hearing his friend. So Augie explains the feeling of betrayal when he says, this. So when he's telling us how he's feeling after he hears that, he's explaining how he felt to hear somebody who was supposed to be his friend talk badly about him behind his back. So now that we know what the big idea is, we have our 3 pieces of evidence. I want you guys to use all of this and write your own theme to complete the we do. For the you do part of this mini lesson, you guys are going to be using the chapter called A Tour of the Galaxy from this week's Read Aloud to complete the graphic organizer on your own. Good luck, guys!